This isn't just a cover, it's a gateway to cultural history. In 1967, the Beatles released Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, where they weren't just reinventing their sound, they were reinventing themselves. The album was a way to express their alter egos, a fictional band that had the freedom to experiment. And behind that band was an audience full of writers, philosophers, movie stars, and even spiritual leaders standing shoulder to shoulder. But what about the lesser-known figures? Or even those who were so controversial that they had to be removed? Well, in today's video, we're going to take a closer look at every one of them. Not only identifying every person on the cover, but why they were prolific in history. Starting on the top row, we have Sri Yukteswar, the author of the 1894 book The Holy Science, which attempted to show essential unity in all religions. Sri Yukteswar was a guru or spiritual master to multiple figures that actually appear throughout the cover. His prominent position in the top left-hand corner as the first spot is a reflection of George Harrison's interest in Indian philosophy, which he began to delve into heavily while recording the album. The Beatles famously traveling to India in February 1968 to study transcendental meditation with influential Indian guru and philosopher Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. Next we have Aleister Crowley, an occultist, writer, and founder of the philosophical system of Thelema, known for his motto, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will." Often labeled the wickedest man in the world by the press, his notoriety stemmed from his practice of magic, exploration of drugs, sexuality, and rejection of traditional morality. Being a figurehead in counterculture, Crowley's teachings were very celebrated by many iconic musicians, most notably Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin, adopting his imagery and mottos in many Zeppelin works moving forward. After that is Mae West, who initially refused her image to appear on the cover. West was a bombshell in West Hollywood's golden age, thinking the theme of a Lonely Hearts Club was not something she'd fit into. But after the Beatles personally wrote her a letter as fans of her work, she agreed. Funnily enough, in 1978, Ringo Starr appeared in West's final movie, Sextet, accompanied by a cover version of the Beatles song, Honey Pie. Then we have Lenny Bruce, known for revolutionizing the world of comedy in the 1950s and 60s, as his brand of humor criticized organized religion, sexual taboos, and hypocrisy in American culture. Being a spirit of rebellion, Bruce was arrested for obscenity multiple times in the 60s, as his foul language was far too much for audiences at the time. This secured him as a countercultural hero not only for the Beatles, but also for beatniks like Bob Dylan. Then Karlheinz Stockhausen, a German composer whose avant-garde approach helped pioneer electronic music. Paul McCartney introduced his work to the group, turning Lennon into an immediate fan. This boundary-pushing influence inspired the Beatles to heavily experiment within the studio, beginning with their tape manipulations heard on Revolver's Tomorrow Never Knows. Next is W.C. Fields, American writer, comedian, and actor. W.C. Fields was the epitome of the all-around entertainer, as his career was multifaceted. His anti-establishment and surreal humor, coupled with being nonconformist and known for doing his own thing, aligned with the Beatles' perspective, feeling rebellious and breaking away from the mop-top image that they embraced prior. Spotted next to Fields is Carl Jung, who developed foundational concepts to psychology, such as introversion and extroversion. A former collaborator of neurologist Sigmund Freud, Jung branched out to focus on individuation, or how the world distinguishes you from everybody else, and analyzing self-realization as the lifelong process of becoming the truest, most complete version of yourself. After this is Edgar Allan Poe, who before being name-checked in I Am the Walrus, appeared to the right of Jung. He pioneered the modern detective story, shaped the horror genre, and mastered psychological thrillers through his poems and short stories in just a 20-year span of writing. These concepts also helped lay the groundwork for sci-fi and thrillers as we know them today, having literary influences that directly inspired authors like H.P. Lovecraft. Then there's Fred Astaire, arguably the greatest popular music dancer in history, known for his immense grace, elegance, and innovative style in film and on stage. He also appeared with John and Yoko in the 1972 television film Imagine. Next to Richard Merkin, a celebrated American painter and illustrator known for his vibrant narrative scenes depicting cultural icons of the 1920s to 1940s, his contributions regularly appearing in The New Yorker and Vanity Fair. Next is a character from a series by Peruvian painter Joaquin Alberto Vargas, otherwise known as a Vargas girl, showcasing a pinup in a specific airbrush style that he pioneered. These images gained widespread exposure in Esquire magazine during the 50s, and are also responsible for much of the artwork that appeared on World War II fighter jets. Although not pictured, next was to be Leo Gorcey, an American actor famous for portraying the leader of street tough groups in films, most notably as Slip Mahoney in the Bowery Boys. Gorcey was a prototype street thug who set the template for others using the image to follow. After demanding a $400 fee to be featured on the cover, Gorcey was declined and removed from the final image. Next is Huntz Hall, American actor and fellow Bowery boy to Gorcey, who was known for playing the putz, or the fool of the group. After this is Simon Rodia, Italian immigrant and construction worker, famous for creating the Watts Towers in Los Angeles, California. Rodia spent over 30 years building structures that spanned up to 99 feet entirely by hand, without using scaffolding, bolts, rivets, or welding. The Watts Tower is now being world-renowned as a landmark masterpiece in art. Completing the top row is Bob Dylan, who directly inspired the Beatles to push the boundaries of music, changing the possibilities of what a pop song truly meant. It was Dylan who convinced John Lennon to write more personal songs, like Help, while the Beatles showed Dylan what could be achieved with a full band behind him. Beginning the second row is Aubrey Beardsley, British illustrator and author known for his erotic and grotesque black and white ink drawings. Despite dying of tuberculosis at 25, he left a prolific legacy being a key figure in the aesthetic movement, who embraced art for art's sake. Next is Sir Robert Peel, known as the father of modern policing, as he established the Metropolitan Police Service of London in 1829. As a two-time prime minister and conservative leader, his name is still remembered today, with terms like bobbies and peelers referring to policemen in England and Ireland respectively. After this is Aldous Huxley, English novelist whose work, The Doors of Perception, influenced counterculture in the 60s, describing the author's own experiences with taking the drug mescaline, the book even contributing to giving the Doors their name. Next is celebrated Welsh poet Dylan Thomas, whose intensely lyrical, emotional, and vivid poetry often explored birth, death, and nature. Thomas heavily inspired the Beatles at the time, with John Lennon even structuring the way he wrote lyrics from Thomas's poetic influence. To his right, American author and screenwriter Terry Southern, famous for his biting, dark satire and for defining the countercultural movements post-World War II. He's the man responsible for writing the screenplays for Dr. Strangelove and Easy Rider, both films helping to define what 60s counterculture truly represented. Next is Guillaume Demucci, American singer-songwriter, famous for being a premier rock and roll vocalist of the pre-British invasion. He achieved massive hits like Run Around Sue, his songs helping characterize the rock and roll era, impacting the Beatles during their upbringing. Seen next to Tony Curtis, a Hollywood actor who made over 100 films between 1949 and 2008. His most celebrated role was alongside Jack Lemmon and Marilyn Monroe in Some Like It Hot. Next is American artist Wallace Berman, pioneering assemblage art, which took a three-dimensional approach to assembling multiple materials together, often in the form of cohesive sculpture or collage, directly influencing the cover of Sgt. Pepper's itself. Then there's Tommy Hanley, a British wartime comedian. Born in Liverpool, he was a local hero for the Beatles. With his BBC radio show, It's That Man Again, Hanley interacting with a cast of eccentric characters, and frequently poking fun at the bureaucracy. A more familiar face to most is up next, as Marilyn Monroe was an American actress, singer, and Hollywood sex symbol in the 1950s. Known for playing the blonde bombshell, her genuine talent, unique appeal, and tragic personal struggles have cemented her status as a lasting pop culture icon. Next is William S. Burroughs, a figurehead within the 1950s countercultural literary movement that songwriters such as Bob Dylan and David Bowie hold at such a high praise. According to Burroughs, he actually witnessed Paul McCartney working on Eleanor Rigby at the historic Apartment 34 in London. Burroughs, despite not knowing much about music, claimed that he could see he knew what he was doing. Sri Mahavatar Babaji, said to be an immortal Himalayan yogi who revived and spread Kriya Yoga, an ancient advanced meditation technique focused on breathing for rapid spiritual development. Known as the Guru of Gurus, influencing many masters worldwide, with his title signifying Great Avatar or Revered Father. Considered an enlightened divine being who assisted in the spiritual evolution of humanity. After this is Stan Laurel, British comic actor, writer, and director best known as the childlike, innocent half of the legendary double act Laurel and Hardy. He's considered one of the most influential figures in the history of cinema comedy. Next to Laurel is Richard Lintner, a German-American painter and illustrator celebrated for his unique, colorful, and often provocative figurative paintings, bridging the gap between European Expressionism, Surrealism, and American pop art. Then there's Oliver Hardy, the other half of Laurel and Hardy, famous for his persona as the pompous, fussy, and physically large babe. He starred in over 100 films with Laurel, creating a legendary partnership through slapstick comedy. After this is prolific author, philosopher, and economist Karl Marx, best known for his 1848 pamphlet The Communist Manifesto, which analyzed capitalism's flaws, predicted class struggles between workers and owners, and advocated for a classless society. His work to this day continues to influence modern economic thought. Next is the father of science fiction, H.G. Wells, who produced genre staples with novels like The Time Machine, The Invisible Man, and The War of the Worlds. He was a prolific English author who used speculative fiction to explore social, scientific, and political themes, including time travel, alien invasions, and genetic engineering. After this is Sri Paramahansa Yogananda, who assisted in learning and passing on the studies of Kriya Yoga. In 1920, Yogananda set sail for America, where he founded the Self-Realization Fellowship and introduced the Western world to meditation. Standing beside is one of 2 wax dummies borrowed from a local hairdresser. She wears a striped red and yellow hat, having no cultural significance beyond the Sgt. Pepper's cover. The beginning of the 3rd row is friend of John Lennon, Stuart Sutcliffe, original bassist for the Beatles. While the group were living in Hamburg and playing around the city's clubs, Sutcliffe met photographer Astrid Kircher, who gave the Beatles their distinctive early 60s haircuts. Sutcliffe left the group in order to enroll in the Hamburg College of Art, but his career was tragically cut short when he died, age 21, from a brain aneurysm. Sutcliffe stands next to the 2nd hairdresser's dummy, sporting a green bonnet. Next is the iconic English comedian and entertainer Max Miller, widely regarded as the greatest stand-up comedian of his generation. Famous for his rapid-fire, risque comedy, flamboyant stage costumes, and mastery of the double entendre. After this is Petty Girl No. 1, designed by American pinup artist George Petty, appearing in Esquire magazine between 1933 and 1956, and also finding a home on the front of World War II fighter planes, notably on the B-17 fighter jet, nicknamed Memphis Belle. Then there's Marlon Brando, seen in his iconic role as Johnny Strabler in the 1953 movie The Wild One. Famous for pioneering method acting, which brought intense realism to film, Brando captured the growing frustrations of the generation that gave birth to rock and roll. Hailed as one of the greatest actors of all time, it's also notable that Brando's rivals in The Wild One go by a very interesting name, the Beatles. Next is Tom Mix, Hollywood's first major Western megastar. Known as the premier silent film cowboy who defined the genre with over 300 action-packed films, he can be seen with his signature white hat and performing his own dangerous stunts. Now there's Oscar Wilde, Irish playwright, novelist, and poet, celebrated for his sharp wit, flamboyant style, and leadership in the British aesthetic movement. He's best known for the novel The Picture of Dorian Gray, and plays such as The Importance of Being Earnest, where his characters depict concise, clever, and memorable lines. Then heartthrob Tyrone Power, known for his dashing good looks, charm, and roles in swashbuckler, action-adventure, and romantic films. He's best known for starring in the adventure film The Mask of Zorro, with other roles such as the outlaw cowboy Jesse James. After this is American artist Larry Bell, whose large sculptures that play with light and space mark his work, constructing a series of shadow boxes in the 60s. After this is Dr. David Livingstone, Scottish missionary, physician, and explorer, known for mapping the African interior and being the first European to see and name Victoria Falls in 1855. While crossing the continent from coast to coast. As an anti-slavery campaigner, he sought to bring Christianity and commerce to Africa. Next is Olympic gold medalist Johnny Weissmuller, winning 5 Olympic gold medals in swimming at the 1924 and 1928 Games. He then would become an actor, famously known as the definitive Hollywood Tarzan. With this, he made his biggest mark in pop culture, establishing an iconic yell forever associated with the jungle hero. After this is Stephen Crane, American author, known as a pioneer of naturalism, realism, and impressionism. He's most famous for his 1895 Civil War masterpiece, The Red Badge of Courage, which depicted the psychological complexities of fear in combat. Next to Crane is Izzy Bond, a British Jewish comedian, singer, and actor, best known for his work in music halls and on BBC Radio during the mid-20th century. Standing beside him is George Bernard Shaw, an Irish playwright who helped shape modern theatre, the first person to receive both a Nobel Prize in 1925 for literature and an Oscar in 1939 for Best Adapted Screenplay in Pygmalion, a story of a phonetics professor, Henry Higgins, who wagers he can transform a Cockney flower girl into a refined lady in months by teaching her proper speech. Next is H.C. Westerman, an American sculptor who served in the U.S. Marine Corps in both World War II and the Korean War. Taking the skills he learned as a carpenter, he started creating expressionist sculptures that criticized the horror he had witnessed while fighting overseas. After this, we have another local Liverpool hero, Albert Stubbins, who was the English centre forward for Newcastle United and Liverpool Football Club, known most for his goal-scoring ability in the 1940s and 50s. He stands beside another interlinked Indian guru, Sri Lahiri Mahashaya, who popularized Kriya Yoga, often being called the Yoga Avatar, or incarnation of yoga. He famously demonstrated that high spiritual realization could be attained by a normal person, rather than only by spiritually aligned monks, opening the doors for yoga culturally. Next is Lewis Carroll, the Victorian-era author of the beloved children's fantasy classics Alice in Wonderland and its sequel Through the Looking Glass, both being a favorite of John Lennon. No surprise that the man behind the poem The Walrus and the Carpenter influenced Lennon's lyrics for I Am the Walrus. Not pictured in the final cover image was Mahatma Gandhi, famed for his nonviolent protests and for leading the movement for Indian independence from British rule. He was ultimately removed from the cover due to the Beatles' label EMI having concerns that the use of his image would cause offense to the people of India. Then there's T.E. Lawrence, a British officer, archaeologist, and writer famous for leading Arab forces in guerrilla warfare against the Ottoman Empire during World War I. Pivotal in the Arab Revolt, he was later immortalized in the 1962 film Lawrence of Arabia. His 1922 book, Seven Pillars of Wisdom, recounted his experiences during the war and laid the foundation for much of his legend. Now in the final row, we see a wax model of Sonny Liston, heavyweight boxing champion that was dethroned by none other than Cassius Clay, who later changed his name to one more people recognize, Muhammad Ali. After this is Another Petty Girl by artist George Petty. Wax models of the Beatles are seen just below, the Beatles including these wax models of their former Beatlemania-era selves, looking on as they transition into their more psychedelic phase. These models were borrowed from Madame Tussauds, an interactive wax museum featuring lifelike figures of international celebrities, historical icons, and royalty. With hair poking out from between the wax figures, Shirley Temple can first be spotted, seen 3 different times throughout the image. This may be a way of symbolizing that she was a triple threat, with Temple being an actress, singer, and dancer who became a child star in the 1930s. Her other appearances are on the far right of the image, next to a doll of herself, wearing a jumper with the slogan, "Welcome the Rolling Stones." Barely visible above John Lennon's right shoulder is Albert Einstein, a physicist whose theory of relativity was light years ahead of its time, essentially stating that space and time are not absolute, but rather a flexible, interwoven fabric known as space-time that changes based on motion and gravity. This theory, of course, altering the way that we now look at our universe forever. In the center of the final row, of course, the Beatles themselves, adorned in colorful military garb, presenting as Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, exploring their alter egos in a military marching band, playing off the pun of salt and pepper, later evolving into Sgt. Pepper. Included in the original designs with the Beatles standing in front of him, and seen by Lennon as a naughty joke, was Adolf Hitler, dictator of Nazi Germany from 1933 to 1945, and the central figure behind some of the most destructive events in human history. He was later removed in the final shot due to being too controversial. Now there's Bobby Breen, who like Shirley Temple was a child star of the 30s. After enlisting in the military and entertaining the troops during World War II, he became a nightclub singer. After this is Marlene Dietrich, a German-American actress and singer who was cemented as a 1930s Hollywood icon, known for her smoky voice, androgynous fashion, and roles in films like Blue Angel and Morocco. As a staunch anti-Nazi, she became a notable humanitarian, entertaining Allied troops during World War II, and was ranked the 9th greatest female screen legend by the American Film Institute. Next to her is the Legionnaire, a member of the Royal Antediluvian Order of Buffaloes. Founded in London in 1822, the Order of Buffaloes is one of the largest fraternal organizations in the United Kingdom. Beginning as a social and charitable club connected by the theater profession, the order is meant to support members in times of hardship. Their motto is, "No man is at all times wise." At the bottom right, we have Diana Dors, often hailed as the British Marilyn Monroe, and the nation's premier blonde bombshell of the 1950s. She achieved fame for her glamorous screen presence, and found a new lease on life in the following decade, both as a cabaret star and a tabloid sensation. Jesus Christ was suggested by John Lennon as well, but rejected by the record company due to the backlash from Lennon's "more popular than Jesus" comment the previous year. Elvis Presley was also omitted from the shot completely, Paul McCartney explaining that Elvis was too important and too far above the rest to even mention. wrapping up our dive into every single person on the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band cover. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to drop a like and subscribe. It helps a small creator like me grow. Let me know in the comments who was your favorite figure in the video, or which iconic album cover I should talk about next. Thank you for watching. We drop an interesting video on music every Wednesday. So until then, I hope to see you again soon. Can you imagine if Jesus and Hitler were in there?